Today, we're talking about classics that absolutely everyone should read. I normally find it very difficult to create the best of list, especially when it comes to classics. However, today I am talking about the books that you told me are the best, in a sense that these are the books that you think everyone should read at least once in their lifetime. A few months back, I asked you in one of my videos to recommend me such title, and out of about 700 people that have seen that video, you got back to me with 24 titles, which I split into 3 categories because one video would be too long. And today we're covering 7 titles that were mentioned by you, not once, but at least 2 times. And actually, some of the titles were mentioned 3 times. As it happens, they are all, of course, classic books. I don't think there's any title here that you've never heard about before, but I thought it would be interesting to pull this list together so that you can see what other people cherish. First up on the list is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. In case you have not heard about this book yet, this was published in 1960 at the height of civil rights movement, and it became an instant classic. This is set in 1930s in American South, and we follow the story through the eyes of Scout Finch, this young girl whose father is defending a black man accused of rape. Now, I only read this book last year and I absolutely loved it, even though I wouldn't categorize myself as someone who is specifically a fan of coming of age novels. Something happened to me last year because I read this one. I also read A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, which I also absolutely adored. And another one that I also really appreciated was Hetty Dorval by Ethel Wilson, Canadian writer. Why am I talking about these books? I'm talking about these books because specifically with this one, I think this story worked so well because it was told through the eyes of a 9-year-old girl. There is a certain tenderness, and the way she sees the adult characters in this novel that gives this story another depth and another layer of honesty. I highly recommend this. If you haven't read this yet, please reach out for it. I am not surprised this found itself on the list. Thank you very much for at least 2 of you who have mentioned this book. Next, we have East of Eden by John Steinbeck. This was published in 1952. It's a sweeping family saga set in California. It is supposed to be exploring the biblical theme of 2 brothers, Cain and Abel. I haven't read this yet. I did read last year The Grapes of Wrath, which completely swept me off my feet, and I had an interesting conversation with someone at work just this last week who thought that The Grapes of Wrath was better than East of Eden. I can't be the judge of that just yet because, like I said, I haven't read this one yet. I did hear another similar comment by one of my favorite booktubers. I will link his short video below in case you're interested. I don't want to know too much about this book because I will definitely be reading it, so I'm not going to be giving you synopsis. All I know is that the whole premise here is that we as human beings do have a choice between good and evil. I definitely think John Steinbeck is a master story writing, and I'm sure this will not disappoint me. And again, thank you to those of you who have put this book on the list of books that everyone should read. The next book several of you voted was Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. No surprises here. I loved Tolstoy's writing in War and Peace, which I finished reading in December last year, and I can't wait to get my teeth into this one. I know that everyone pretty much knows what this is about because the tragic love story has been adapted into many movies and TV adaptations. However, I do have a feeling there is so much more depth in here. This is not just about a love story, this is also a portrayal of marriage, of class, of society, of faith, of meaning in our lives. There is a book I was trying to read towards the end of last year. Oh, yes, actually, I did put it back on the shelf. And this was Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert. I have not mentioned this on this channel that I actually did not finish this book. I think I am going to go back to it, but I really struggled. I got to about one third in. Let me know if it gets easier. It's not that this one is difficult to read necessarily, but for some reason I found it very, very tedious. And the reason why I'm mentioning it is because oftentimes this one and Anna Karenina plus one of my favorite classics, Effie Briest by Theodore Fontaine, these three books are kind of mentioned in the same sentence when we're talking about 19th century classic literature that talks about the role of a woman in a society. And like I said, I love this one. I couldn't get through this one, and I have high hopes for this one. The next book is the only book I don't have a copy of, and that is Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Of course, we had to have Dostoevsky on this list, even though I am probably not his biggest fan. I did read Crime and Punishment at school. I remember not liking it very much. Then, in the last couple of years, I attempted to read the brothers Karamazov. I found it very boring, and yes, I know nothing happens for the first 500 pages, but still, I just couldn't really get invested into the characters too much. I know I am going to pick it up again, but I think there's something between me and Dostoevsky where we don't quite jive as well, because even this little book, White Nights, which for some reason became so popular on BookTube in the last few years, I wonder whether it's because this is such a tiny Dostoevsky that people who want to say they've read Dostoevsky, they started suddenly talking about this book, or maybe whether it's because of this edition of Penguin Little Black Classics, which is great edition when it comes to making maybe a little bit lesser known titles popular again. However, even in this one, tiny book, I couldn't get past, or you can see bookmark here, 20 pages. Just very melancholic. I know what you're going to say, it's only 20 pages, and I am probably going to finish it, but there are just so many books out there that have been calling my name that I just had to put this one down. Let me know, those of you who are big fans of Dostoevsky, what it is that you like about him and what would help me to want to, or feel like I want to pick up Brothers Karamazov again. Next, we have Emily Brontë, Wuthering Heights. Those of you who have been watching this channel, you know that I love this book. And I know this is a bit of a Marmite. There are people who didn't like it. There are people who loved it. I am definitely in the latter category, even though this probably will find itself on my list of books that I found most difficult to read, because the language here is archaic, and also this book is nothing what you expect it to be. And no, I have not watched the latest adaptation. I don't think I'm going to watch it because From what I have heard, it's so different to the book that probably shouldn't be even called Wuthering Heights. And if you've read this book, you know why this book is probably an impossible project to be adapted into a movie, because this is so complex and so unusual and so twisted and so dark and has a mix of so many different themes in it that I can't even comprehend how you would go about making a movie based on this book that would do this book justice. I highly recommend it. If you need any convincing to read this book, please read it, and you will be in awe of Emily Bronte's talent and her imagination, because what she cooked up here, it is most extraordinary. Next, we have The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas, a beast of a novel, because this is a huge novel, although that does not scare me, because recently I've been loving big books and big sagas. I'm currently reading David Copperfield by Charles Dickens, and I am under Dickens' spell. I am devouring it. I absolutely love it. I also have on my list lots of other big books to read this year, and hopefully I will get to this one as well. In my very first videos when I was starting my channel, I mentioned The Lady of the Camellias by Alexandre Dumas the Son as one of the books that shaped me, because I read this at a very young age, probably when I was 11 or 12, and this book got me into some serious reading alongside Gone with the Wind. But when I was talking about this book, I didn't realize that this was written by Alexandre Dumas' son. So these are two different authors. So I am correcting myself here. And if the writing of the father is as good as the writing of the son, and I'm sure many of you will say it's even better, then I know I will absolutely love it. And the final title on this list of the books that, according to you, everyone should absolutely read, and this will be a bit of a surprise for us all here, because that is Mansfield Park by Jane Austen, not Pride and Prejudice, but Mansfield Park was mentioned by you at least 2 times in those comments, and that was really interesting to see. And I did hear that Mansfield Park is a little bit more complex, even if it is less sparkly maybe than Pride and Prejudice, which I have read. I read Pride and Prejudice and I read Northanger Abbey. I've got Emma on my list, as well as Mansfield Park, and actually I don't have a copy of Mansfield Park either. I thought I did, but that is the one Austen I do not own yet. So the main protagonist in Mansfield Park is this poor girl who is raised by wealthy relatives. That's all I know. Let me know which is your favorite Austen and whether that is by any chance Mansfield Park. And come to think of it, based on your recommendation, it might be that this will be the next Austen I read instead of Emma, because now I am very much intrigued. So these are the 7 titles mentioned more than once by you when asked to recommend a book that absolutely everyone should read. In the next episode, I will also be talking about classic books that you told me everyone should read, but these are the lesser known books, and because they lesser known, they almost even more intriguing and interesting, and I can't wait to explore them together with you. So stay tuned. And then after that, I think I'll do one more episode, because I have more titles you recommended, and these will be the contemporary titles that you told me everyone should read. Thank you very much for watching. As always, Have a wonderful weekend and I'll see you next Friday. Bye for now.